Why should you read Ember Knight? Well, I'll answer that right now, but first let me tell you something. This video will be broken into parts, so if you just want to skip through to a certain part, feel free. Also, this is entirely my own opinion, so the series may not be for you. I'll be ranking each individual part on a scale of 5 and giving it an overall score. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, Ember Knight is a webtoon written by Hwan Dong. Sorry if I butchered that. The story follows our protagonist Nagyun after he assumes the identity of his twin brother Najin. In this video, we are going to mainly talk about why I believe that you, your homeboy, and your mama should be reading this. Firstly, we're going to start by talking about the power system. We all love a good power system, but this one is fairly simple. The characters in the story are able to become very physically strong and very fast while just being normal humans. They can even wield the magic in their world for healing and magical attacks as well. People in the world are split into two main types and categories: knights and people. The knights are very strong, but each have their own form of restriction called a Gias. This Gias is bestowed upon them by the king in return for great power. Another main component of this power system is the weapons. The weapons can be split into two main types: normal crafted weapons that can come with special abilities, and Narans, weapons that are given birth to by the world that choose their wielders. Although the power system is very simple, it still has its own charms, and I believe that the way that the writer uses this power system in the story is very smart and basically just elevates the story to another level. Because when you really think about it, the people in this story don't have like godly abilities. They're basically just normal martial artist combatants that are physically stronger and physically faster, and that's really it. Although the Gias does add a certain level to what can be classified as just normal martial arts, because there's a couple of techniques in the series that are kind of like, a little bit crazy. But other than that, this power system is pretty simple and I think it's effective. So I believe that it deserves a 4 out of 5. Next, we're going to get into the protagonist. What do I think makes a good protagonist? Well, there's a couple things that go into it and never really change. A good protagonist to me is someone who fits as the focal point of the story. We as the reader want to see them grow day after day, challenge after challenge, or in other words, character development. A character that just exists in the story with no real change at all gets pretty boring pretty quick. Every single new gen Isekai MC. I also believe a strong protagonist has some sort of goal they want to achieve throughout the story. As the protagonist eventually meets this goal, it makes the reader love them more and more. A great example of this is someone like Naruto. From day one, we see him say that he wants to become the Hokage, and he works towards it day by day, while experiencing character growth throughout the story. Not saying Naruto's character is perfect, but he definitely shines when it comes to being a good MC, albeit a generic one. Now on to our protagonist of this here story, Nagyun. Nagyun is a top-tier manipulator / strategist that has to fill the role of his brother, who is basically the strongest knight apprentice there is. Now Nagyun, on the other hand, is weak as hell. The only thing this guy was blessed with was the ability to adapt and his brain. He uses nothing but his wits to outsmart both his enemies and his allies, as he has to keep on the guise that he is in fact Najin and not Nagyun. He does this mainly with his inept ability to read situations in their entirety by analyzing people's expressions and reading their intentions, which gives him a pseudo mind reading capability. Those around him are far, far stronger, and he knows that 100%. I personally love how this character is written, how he does anything and everything to achieve his goal of getting revenge for his fallen brother, even if that betrays those closest to him. Every main character also needs a little bit of, drip, of course. He most definitely has that shit on 100% of the story. I believe Nagyun is written very well and keeps us, the reader, intrigued at what his next move might be. We also see him grow throughout the story as he builds stronger bonds with those around him and gets stronger alongside them. A great thing about Nagyun as well is that he is unwavering in his resolve to get his revenge. He is tested many, many times in the story about his ultimate goal and if it was truly worth this struggle, and yet he never wavers. Now, a character like Nagyun I really, really like. I like characters that, instead of being like stupidly strong, are just stupidly smart and use that to basically substitute for their strength. In my personal opinion, I give him a 4.5 out of 5. Now on to the The side characters. Now, what makes a good side character? Well, in simple words, they exist to complement the MC and to provide us with world building aspects and help to build the story. These characters are probably the most important when it comes to writing a good story. They are meant to provide more aspects of the story by adding more variables. Each side character plays their own role in the story, and the way they do it is what makes each of them special. They experience growth and development similar to the MC, and without it, they would just turn into garbage characters that only exist for exposition. My favorite examples of side characters in fiction comes from One Piece. Each Straw Hat comes from their own background and has their own differing personalities, which all weave together to create one of the best groups in anime and manga history. They all have growth and develop throughout the story and are continuing to grow as the story goes on. Now, Nagyun isn't alone throughout his journeys. He's surrounded by other knights and knight apprentices, all a part of Special Class 2. Special Class 2 is a group of knights and apprentices put together to stop an upcoming war and to stop the overall fall of the knights. The main characters that I want to talk about, though, are Killin and Black Hen. These two are knights, absolute powerhouses on the battlefield, and are backed with the brains to support their brawn. I absolutely love these characters and the role they play in the story. One of them showing what it means to be a badass and knowing you can stand on it, and the other showing what it means to do anything for the greater good. Firstly, Killin, the man himself. He is the person who Nagyun trusts the most in his journey. Why, you may ask? Because he is just as damn smart as Nagyun is. He is extremely perceptive and sees through most of Nagyun's schemes throughout the story. He represents the knights that stand for the greater good of the world and not just the virtue of his knighthood. Killin serves as a kind of mentor to Nagyun as they both are same in nature, weak. Killin is one of the weakest knights due to a certain restriction, but no spoilers of course. Killin uses his experience built up through countless battles to supplement his lack of strength. Plus, just look at the guy, he's cool as fuck. From the top to the bottom, he most definitely has a great design. He's basically the perfect complement to Nagyun, another extremely smart character that is in a constant battle of wits with Nagyun. Killin also shows the qualities of what makes a side character good. He grows throughout the story not only by becoming a better teacher and leader for Special Class 2, but also serving as its de facto leader, which he learns to do throughout the story. Now, Black Hen is another one of the main side characters throughout the story that I want to highlight. Black Hen is a knight that hates knights and all they stand for. Although Black Hen is a knight herself, she only does it for the thrill of the battle and to achieve her ultimate goal. She is a badass, simply put. She never backs down to any foe that she must face to achieve her goals. She doesn't even value her own knighthood like the other knights do. She just works towards her own goals, and honestly, I love it. I love this about her, not just because she's cool, but she can most certainly back it up as she shows many times throughout this story. Plus, she serves as a sort of relief character when everyone's serious. She's the type to crack a joke, and I love a character like that. Black Hen draws a powerful weapon, which is a Narin. As I mentioned earlier, her weapon was birthed by the world and has a couple of unique abilities. One being that it can fly, and that Black Hen can use it as a second set of eyes and see what it sees. The third thing that is blessed with is incredible durability and the power to basically just never be broken. Anyways, that's it for my personal favorite side characters, even though there are many more that appear throughout this story that all have their own interesting narratives and serve a great point in the story. None of them exist simply for exposition or just to be there. They all serve a purpose, which is one of the best parts of Ember Knight overall. But if I had to rank it, I would rank the side characters in the story a strong 4. Now, on to probably the most important part of a story like this, the antagonist. What do I think makes a great antagonist? A great antagonist can be a couple of things. Their overall role in the story is to serve as an obstacle for the MC to overcome to reach their end goals. These characters aren't just placeholders, they tend to have their own unique story and aspects that better the story. Some wonderful antagonists we see in New Gen manga are characters like Sukuna and Kenjaku from JJK. They are both antagonists that oppose the main characters but in different and unique ways. This makes them very interesting in the story as we see their differing goals intertwining and causing havoc for the Jujutsu sorcerers. Now, the antagonists in Ember Knight are very good. Every antagonist that enters the story has a very great narrative and their own set of goals. None of the antagonists that are introduced are just pure evil. They are all working to achieve their own goals or serving someone else, kind of working under their command. One of the villains we see early into the story of Ember Knight is the Skull General. His name isn't said until later in the story, and I want to avoid major spoilers overall. The Skull General is a powerhouse. One thing that's constant in this story is power and strength, never being power crept, and characters that were strong early on still holding their weight later in the story. The Skull General is extremely overpowered compared to the Knights. The Knights can barely face a foe like him and aren't able to best him in the slightest. The Skull General serves one man and one man forever and always, the King. The King sent him to the continent of the Knights for one goal of destruction, and he fulfills that role very well. He wields a powerful Narin and wields it with utmost proficiency. The King himself bestowed the Skull General with this Narin and taught him the Dragon Martial Arts, a powerful technique which he uses to fight the Knights. The Skull General at first comes off as naive and like a strong sort of idiot, but as we see him more and more, we learn that he isn't in the slightest. The Skull General has one goal: to kill the Knights and incite chaos on the continent for the King. Now, a character like this is just amazing to me. The power scaling in Ember Knight basically solidifies him as one of the strongest to exist, and introducing him early truly sets the tone for the power in this series. I love this a lot. Just a strong, loyal combatant that serves as a trial for the protagonist of the story. We see the powerful knights that have seen no worthy adversaries so far fight against what seems to be an overpowering force. The Skull General is of course powerful, but that isn't the only part of his character. We see his devotion to his ruler, and we also see how he weaves into the story almost perfectly. Yes, he's strong, but he isn't just strong, and that's what makes him so interesting. His interactions with Nagyun are very interesting and just make this story even better. Overall, Ember Knight is amazing and has one of the best stories I've ever read. I love the characters and the designs so much, and the art style just really speaks to me. I really enjoy the writing behind the characters and the fact that everyone in the story has a purpose. I also love the deep attention to detail throughout the whole story and the whole underdog story of Nagyun and how he deceives all of those around him, fooling them and using them to achieve his one and only goal of revenge. Now, totaling the 4 sections, we come up to an overall score of 4.2 out of 5. Thank you for watching this video, and consider checking out this series on Webtoon, and I believe it's also on TappyToon. If you like this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to see more content like this in the future. I plan to produce a video at least once a week, and if my videos begin to pop off and start to get really well received, then I'll probably update more weekly. Anyways, thank you for watching and have a good rest of your day.